Hello, everybody. Welcome to Beneath Your Feet. Hope I didn't blow your eardrums out just now. Welcome to Beneath Your Feet. It is our monthly LOTRO lore stream where we take a deep dive into a particular zone here in Middle Earth to try to learn more about it, and then we feature it on the Beneath Your Feet podcast in a few weeks after we get everything recorded and smoothed out and wonderful. This is also the one stream where I passively try to make Cord jealous of my hair. So, hope everyone is doing well. Thank you for tuning in. We are here in a very special and a very dangerous location this fine evening. But more about that later. First, hope everyone is doing great. Hope everyone is staying safe and well here in these tricky times. Hope everyone's dodging the Delta and enjoying lots of time in LOTRO. Hope everyone had a great Farmer's Fair. I wasn't, not gonna lie, I wasn't super into the Farmer's Fair this year. Not quite sure why. Cheers. I just wasn't feeling it. I don't know what it was. I'll tell you. Actually, I'll tell you exactly what it was. I'm a teacher by trade, clearly, and school year started back up right towards the beginning, the middle, early part of the Farmers Fair, and man, that just soaked up all of my gaming time in general, but especially my LOTRO time. But gratefully, I had a whole bunch of tokens left over from last year. So I was flush with tokens, including the instance ones. Forget what they're called. So I was able to buy myself a nice little picnic basket and buy myself this wonderful steed. It's got a carrot on it. Is that it? Yeah, the greengrocer. I was able to pick this one up. So even though I didn't much participate, oh, look at that. Look at that. Did not pick up the carrot tunic, though. Sorry. So even though I didn't do a whole lot of farmers fairing, I did, you want to know what? I did get some stuff. Ski0624 is in the chat. Yeah, the festivals, they could be kind of hit or miss. It just kind of depends on what you want to do. Because sometimes I get real obsessed and I'll grind and I'll break out the abacus and I'll be like those, the Charlie Day meme with the conspiracy board, and I'll have my plans all ready and I'll be knocking out like 500 tokens a day. That's something I just don't feel like doing it. I don't know. I guess we have to have a psychology cast to talk about the psychology of MMOs and festivals therein. But we're not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about the dreaded Ettenmoors, because that's where I am right now. Now, as you'll see, I'm aboard Mr. Roxo, the rock and roll hobbit. And I have a lot of characters. I was hoping to show maybe some different ones off. Maybe show off my Bjorning or my new champion over there on the Treebeard server. But no, we're here again for our second edition of the show. Once again on Mr. Roxo, the rock and roll hobbit, because we are here in the Ettenmoors, and I think we're going to need some professional stealth in order to survive. So let's talk a little bit about what we do on this particular show. The main thing, like I said, is we do a deep dive, as deep as I can go, as a lore, not a lore noob, I'm a lore journeyman. We do a deep dive into a particular zone, and we talk about, the history within the text. We talk about some of the geography. We talk about how Standing Stone Games have adapted it and done their own thing. And we kind of learn together. And then I take everything we learn and I put it in the next episode of the Beneath Your Feet podcast. And we generally have a good time. So as much as anything else, I will need your guys' help because the Ettenmoors is a very tricky one. More importantly, there's going to be creeps around. And I'm afraid I'm going to get killed, but I'll be my extra sneakiest here on the beautiful and sunny Landreval server. Now, one thing I will say is I'm a little out of touch with the PvMP scene on Landreval. My wonderful kinship, Away Shall Fade, used to have a pretty strong presence. We had a Moors night that kind of began to fizzle not too long ago. And so I don't know what night all the action is happening. So it could be a quiet night on the moors here. It could, maybe it's not. In any case, let's get started. We begin here at Glanvrig, excuse me, which is the home base of the Free Peoples, the armies of the Free Peoples. So we've got our quest givers here. We've got our reward traders. And I don't know about you, I have spent some time in the moors, a little bit on this character. As you can see, I'm a footman. But oftentimes a moors run or a moors night involves a lot of running around, a lot of shouting, a lot of tears, and one doesn't really take the time to read the quest text per se. So I think we're going to kind of break this up into a few different phases over the next hour or so. I think what we'll do is I want to start by exploring the quest text a little bit to try to get more of a feel for what exactly we're doing here. And then we'll kind of dive into the lore a little bit and go exploring around and see what kind of trouble we can get into. So first things first, when you hit level 45, you get a quest from an elf named Lionethel, and she lets you know that essentially Angmar is a threat. As you can see on the map here, the Ettenmoors are right over here, right next to Angmar. And so the story goes from way back when, in the shadows of Angmar days, that a massive army was gathering in Angmar, and apparently they meant to find Rivendell and sack it and just burn it to the ground. And according to the quest text, Master Elrond was okay with keeping with secrecy and trusting to, I guess, the power of his ring, so on and so forth. But a particular group of elves was not having that, and they wanted to take these interlopers head on. And so that's kind of where it puts us. We're here to help these elves, to help to defend Rivendell and really all of Eriador from the wicked armies of Angmar. So this guy's a bit of he's an item giver. I don't think we're going to get a lot of story out of him. So let's click around a little bit. I also kind of forgot how many of these I've already done. And so it's like, I don't know which ones are there and which ones are not. So the quest text may not be the right way to go. She's just telling us to go and check out Ringdeer. Let's see what else we got going on here. Come on, Concord. Away! Let's see what this guy has to say. No, that's just a general raid one. Not a lot, by the way, of story here. I wonder why. Maybe it's because people are just here to bash stuff. Yeah, these are just general raid quests. So the idea here is you're just going to go and kill one of the major NPCs at the enemy fortresses, and then you get a nice big fat reward. But we're not here for that. We're here to learn a little bit. Okay, by the way, quick side note. This dude in this flag will zap you over to Osgiliath. I have no idea what the state of PvMP in Osgiliath is. I never hear anybody talk about it. I was away from the game when it was launched, and I've genuinely never heard anybody talk about it. So don't ask me. I don't know what's going on there. Let's see what we can learn here from Captain General Tordur. Again, general objective quests. Let's see what he has to say here. I am known to many of the elves of Rivendell. Nay, do not be surprised. I have a delicate matter that needs attention. The waterfall above Tol Escarnan has seen Angmar's forces. Again, not a whole lot of narrative, not a whole lot of exposition here. I don't know. What do you guys think? I wonder if anyone in the chat has had an experience where they read a bit of quest text here in the Ettenmoors and gleaned a little bit more information. Okay. Cleansing the river. We've all been there and done that before. So let's jump in and start talking a little bit about the history. This is the part where I'm going to risk clearing out the UI so we can get a better view of what's going on here. So I think we should start with the name. First of all, Ettenmoors, I'm sure many of you are already aware, is formed from two different words, right? Etten and Moors. If you've ever read Hound of the Baskervilles or any other, English literature from the last 100 years or 200 years, even farther back, you probably know what a moor is. It's this like high rocky flatland. It's grassy, but it's also chock full of rocks. It's a heath is another word. We see that word a lot in the Lord of the Rings as well, heath. So that's a moor. And then Etten is this old word having to do with trolls or giants. And the history of this particular place is quite interesting within the scope of the text. Like, I don't, as I said, I don't fancy myself too much of a Tolkien scholar. I've not read the histories because they're boring, honestly. But thankfully, we have people who find that thing way more interesting, and they have provided us with the great gift that is a wiki. And it turns out that the Ettenmoors have gone through they went through a few different transformations over the course in which Tolkien was writing this story. So originally, it was the sketches of the maps at the time of the Fellowship of the Ring and with Tolkien's first draft. He sketched out that area around the Horwell as the Dimrill Dale, actually. So let's pull up the map so you can see what I'm talking about. So here is the river Horwell. And apparently this area was the Dimrill Dale, which of course in the finished version is over here. Whoops, where'd we go? Is over here, which of course was featured in our most recent update. And then as the story developed, Tolkien began to change it and shape it. And turns out this actually wasn't the Ettenmoors, or this actually wasn't Hordale or the Dimrill Dale. And he actually, according to the histories, he renamed it the Entish Dales, or the Entish lands. And evidently this was before he conceived of the Ents of Fangorn. And so if you know the story about that, in the letters, Tolkien explains that the Ents just showed up. Like Merry and Pippin went to a forest and there were the Ents. And not unlike the hobbits themselves, they were as much a surprise to the author as they were to us as readers. And so after the Ents appeared in the Two Towers, he had to kind of go back and fix some of that stuff. So what did he do? He changed it from Entish to Etten, which again, like I said, has to do is an older English word. I'm not a linguist. Well, you guys can tune into the Tolkien Professor Friday at 1 for more on that. But it's something to do with Etten has to do with trolls or giants or that kind of thing. And then eventually it became the Trollfells or Ettenmoors. Now this is confused further because in the finished story in Fellowship, Strider makes reference to the Ettendales, but then he says Ettenmoors. And then when we get to the Council of Elrond and we find out what has been going on with Gandalf in the interim where he was missing after he escaped Isengard, he calls it the Ettenmoors, not the Ettendales. And so that kind of leaves a little bit of ambiguity. Like, for example, different sources online kind of classify and distinguish. There's a fly in here. It is driving me nuts. Need some chopsticks. Anyway, I digress. Some of the different websites will make the distinction saying that the Ettenmoors were a smaller region within the Ettendales or vice versa. But the Encyclopedia of Arda makes it clear, and I think this is the correct interpretation. I could be wrong, so if you think I'm wrong, let me know in the chat. The Ettendales were a region separate from the Ettenmoors. Because as I said, the moors are kind of a flat land, but they are at a certain elevation. So it makes sense that you would have moors, and then you would have dales. I think if we're going to try to guess where they were, they'd be somewhere over here, between the Ettenmoors and the Misty Mountains. So that's kind of my feeling on the matter. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. We got the Ettenmoors and LOTRO in the books. They don't play a big role. They're just kind of there and passing mention. Specifically, Strider says he doesn't want to go there because he doesn't really know anything about it, which is interesting. Because if you look here, we're going to go start exploring in a second, but if you look here, this place is called Otterdoor's End. And of course, Otterdoor was the grandfather of Aragorn. So I don't know. Maybe that's why he didn't go up there. Maybe that's why he doesn't know a whole lot about it. Maybe rangers just don't go that way. Anyway, that's enough out of me. Let's start exploring here a little bit. All right, so we're going to mount up. First of all, we are mounted on our faithful Concord. And we'll go see what we can see here. All right, once we cross the squiggly... If you've never been to the Ettenmoors, once we cross the squiggly, we have officially entered the danger zone. And as you can see, it's looking a little grim for the free peoples tonight. I see lots of eyes there. So I reckon we're going to go start by living dangerously. We're going to scoot over to Tirith Raw and see what we can get away with here and explore around. Mostly, as I said, whenever I'm actually active in the Ettenmoors, I don't pay attention to the landscape or the quests, as I said. And so when I come to do the podcast, I like to have a good mental image of what these places look like. And so we're going to try to take our time here and be as sneaky and hobbitsy as we can and get a good look. Okay, I'm gonna have to. I like to kill the UI to give you guys a good look about what's going on. It's just not going to work. Moreover, you may have noticed, maybe you didn't, because I don't think my stream quality is especially high, but the game automatically nukes your graphics settings because if there's a massive swarm of Uruks coming to kill you, you don't want it to slow your frame rate down too much. So here we are in the Coldfells, looking down at Tirith Raw. The Coldfells are actually the only other spot that are mentioned in the books. All right, let's dismount. We're gonna sneak over here and be a tricksy hobbit. We're gonna hide out up here as we talk a little bit about what's going on. So the Coldfells, again, are the only spot that are mentioned in the book specifically, besides Ettenmoors, Ettendales. And I mean, the name's quite obvious. A fell is similar to a moor in a sense. A lot of these English geographic words are lost on some of us North Americans, at least on me. Even contemporary Brits who may not use the word fell in a sentence every day are probably more familiar with it than your average United Statesian like myself. But a fell is basically just a moor. And the Coldfells bring us to the appendices, really. Because that is where the demise of Arador, who I mentioned before, is actually described. Now, for the game, when we get to Volume 3, we learn a little bit about this history. We learn a little bit about Arador and what happened to him, and how this whole area used to be called the Trolls' Height. But then after the Trolls killed Arador, who was the chieftain of the Dunedain at that point, they renamed it Arador's End. But in the text, all that is referred to as is the Coldfells. And so I guess, when they were constructing this ages and ages ago, they had to come up with a name. And so this particular, I'm not going to fight him. I really want to fight him, but I would get killed so quickly. Let's hope he doesn't sniff me out. So then they were building this all those years ago. They clearly had to make some decisions about what was going to be called what. So, and I'm not going to lie, Arador's End sounds a little catchier than the Coldfells. The Coldfells is a very generic term. All right, so here we are at Tirith Raw. Tirith Raw? Yikes. Okay, I'm not too worried about those guys, actually. And this kind of brings us to a discussion about what in the world are all these castles doing in the middle of the Ettenmoors. So let's think about this for a second. Logically, we have this stretch of moors, this rocky highland here, in the middle of nowhere. Strider doesn't even know about it, right? Strider doesn't know anything about these lands, probably because it's perilously close to Angmar. And yet there's these structures here. So if you paid attention last stream, you know that I like to kind of try to suppose hey buddy, got my eye on you. Try to suppose what's going on in the world, supposing that, these structures are accurate, even though let's be real. They were just built because we need stuff to fight, and we need castles to take in our PvMP mode. But realistically, in the context of the books, where could these have come from? Maybe they were old castles from the age of Arthedain, the Northern Kingdom. I don't really know. But I can say Tirith Raw, my Sindarin is not great. So if you are a Sindarin scholar there in the chat, you can help me out. But Tirith, of course, has to do with guard. Like Minas Tirith is the Tower of the Guard. And Raw has something to do with the wild. So this is kind of like the guard of the wild. So that starts to paint a little bit of a picture for us as we think about where this might come from. So maybe, this was built in the Arnorian times, maybe in the Kingdom of Arthedain, to defend the region from Angmar, because even though the Witch King is defeated eventually by Glorfindel, if I got that right. We're not going to get into the Aerenor thing. Spoilers. Eriador is still kind of in constant danger, and Angmar remains an evil place for a long time, even as we get into the kind of parallel universe that is LOTRO. So it makes sense that they might have some of these castles here, even though it bugs me that they've got all of these red banners there. Okay. Hello, Mr. Bear. Oh, that warg is... Oh, I'm not going to fight him. Not going to fight him. We must proceed with our research and not be distracted by wargies. I don't think I could take him anyway. I'm not geared very, very well. I got decent gear. I run stairs. I've done Follow Cause of Doom a few times. My LI is more or less maxed out, but I have none of the actual PvP gear. I don't know anything about that. Okay, let's scope this out over here. Then we're going to talk about Arador's End, because I've never actually been up here to this particular area. One thing that is important to mention in this, when we talk about the Ettenmoors, is its we're in friendly territory. Is its connection to the river Horwell, which of course starts up here in the Misty Mountains and works its way down and goes all the way to the last bridge and beyond. How far does that go? I'm trying to figure out if we actually... I guess we don't see it anymore. Maybe one day... Does it go to Ettendales? No. Maybe one day if we get the South Downs, we would actually get to see more of it there. But if you get into this area of the Trollshaws, it's at the delta, or not the delta, but at the fork where those two rivers meet. It's a lot of waterways and things of that sort. So I guess technically when we get down into Dunland, this river would be the same river, the river Horwell, where it meets the river Eisen as it feeds the great, not the Great River. Anyway, I'm getting distracted by rivers. Let's proceed. How are we doing in the chat? Everybody's awful quiet tonight. You guys just kicking back. Hopefully my mic sounds better. I was a little low last time. So let me know if I need to crank it or if I'm blowing your eardrums out. Okay. Thanks, Ginger. Ginger's let me know the sound is good. Complex 1234 says he's soaking up the info. I appreciate it. I did my best. I felt a little bit unprepared last time, so I wanted to make sure I at least had some, even though this is technically our research stream, I wanted to make sure I at least had some tidbits to share with y'all. Oh, Ski's playing LOTRO. What are you playing? What are you doing over there, Ski? Yeah, Drowned Snake says this is a dangerous place to research. I completely agree. I've actually had this episode in mind for a while, so, but I'd forgotten about it. So I had this brainwave. I was like, oh man, what an exciting stream it would be to run around the Ettenmoors trying not to get killed as I explored the region. Plus, it's just fun to explore around because I've never really done that before. And then I went back into my notes and I saw that I had written most of this episode like years ago, so I had a little bit to work with. Oh, Ski's playing Minas, Morgul, and Three Peaks. Oh yeah, enjoy those, Ski. So here we get a little bit of lore. We get a little bit of story. This dude is trying to figure out why exactly Angmar and the Hillmen of Rudour are messing around out here. So he wants us to go and collect some historical notes, which is a good point. I think that's one thing LOTRO does very well, is that we have the stories are rooted in the history of Middle Earth, but moreover, the characters are interacting with that history, and I think that's pretty cool. Appreciate it, Complex. Thanks for watching. I'm glad I'm being informative tonight. Okay, this is pretty cool. I've never noticed this quest before because, again, I don't think I've ever actually been up here. But I like that this guy is asking us to try and collect some historical notes because that's a recurring theme we have in the whole I mean, really throughout the game, but especially in the Shadows of Angmar, not cycle, but the Shadows of Angmar region, is bad guys and good guys trying to dig stuff up out of the past. Naturally, the forces of evil are out to learn as much as they can about the past, and we see constant scenes of Angmarin and Hillman trying to resurrect evil spirits and stuff to take over dragons and things like that. And so I think that's a kind of a safe place for them to write stories from. All right, let's see if we can spy out the Arador's End here before we go down and see it for ourselves. Looks like we got a mountain pass. That's good. All right, so I will leave you with a little view of the river as I check in with the chat here. Oh yeah, Ski's relating a story about sneaking around as a wargi and then hiding out from the free people. That's always a good vibe. That's most of my Moors experience was on my minstrel way back in the day. But the times I've played on Roxo here have been really fun because a lot of times they'll just plant you as a scout and you feel like a tough guy. Yes, Ski, apparently that's nice. You found a merciful spider. It is fun, Drowned Snake, just running around with that added element of danger. Some people take their time in the Ettenmoors very seriously, and they just want to grind those points and get gear and things like that. But just that added element of danger is fun, even if you're just kind of running around. Especially because the rest, besides Osgiliath, which is a mystery to me, this is the only place where that happens. All right, so here we are. We're heading up to Arador's End. We're technically nearing Mount Graham. I feel like I need to go stealth. See what's going on here. What I'm really looking for is that spot at the beginning of Volume 3. I believe the quest I should have this in my notes, but I don't. I believe the quest is called the Line of Isildur, where you do a flashback and you play as I can't remember his name, but you play as a ranger, and you find hello Freep. You find Arador as he's being attacked by the trolls. The House of Isildur. Thank you, Drowned Snake. That's it. Tell you the real reason I'm not as researched is it hit me today. I was like, oh no, I gotta get some research done. But LOTRO Wiki was blocked at work, so I had to settle for seconds. I think it's around here though, that spot in the House of Isildur quest where we see where Arador meets his demise. Let's see if we can be a sneaky hobbit and get past these guys without a lot of fuss. All right, we're good. Laganed sounds right to me because there's you remember Drowned Snake that there was a few different ones in that series. There's I think the first one is where you're in Forakel and you find the broken ship, and then then after that you meet Arador, and then after that you meet Strider. And I can't remember what Laganhead is definitely in there somewhere. So whether or not that is the exact correct ranger, it is one of the correct rangers, and I award you 5 points, sir. Congratulations. All right, I'm not going to grab this stuff because I don't want to deal with all these gobos. We're just looking for the place where Arador died. Are there signs? Why are there no signs here? This is a historical monument. There should be a plaque somewhere. Drowned Snake is currently in the lead. We need to talk to Cord or Druid's Fire. We need a scorekeeping bot on this channel. Okay, there it is. That's the spot. We found it, kids. Thank you, Arwen. Appreciate it. Look at this. Look at this disgrace. Ugh, big old trolls. Yeah, this is a spot, and they have the audacity to not even have like a statue or whatever. I'm finding that's the question of the night. Once again, the only, besides Gandalf's speech at the Council of Elrond, the only place where Ettenmoors, Ettendales is mentioned is when Strider is leading the hobbits to Rivendell. And he specifically says, I don't really know about the Ettenmoors. I don't want to go that way. And so I'm just like, why? What do you guys think? Why did the Rangers not go this way? Was it just too many trolls? Is it too much grief to see the death spot of your grandfather? What do you guys think? All right, boys. Safe fall. Hey! Shout out Safe fall. Love it. Excuse me. Cheers again. Okay, let's see where we at now. Let me get sneaky. We're right past Arador's end. Looks like the Freeps are in charge of the outpost. We're not going up there because I just jumped off a cliff because I'm a cool dude. So we are actually close to Mount Graham. So I think we should sneak down a little bit, and then we're going to investigate the steps of Graham. Hips is, I've not used my hide in plain sight skills. So we're going to stay on Mr. Horsey. We're going to stay on good old Concord here. And if we run into some trouble with the creeps, we'll just hips and hope for the best. R1 says the Rangers did not come this way because it was probably too close to Angmar. I think you're probably right. By the way, we are on top of the River Horwell. It's frozen. It's frozen. But I guess that makes sense because, you know, within the context of the books, we don't hear a lot about Angmar. However, we do hear, was it Merry or Pippin, when they're in the Barrow Downs, they're overcome by the Whites, and Merry wakes up screaming, the dead men of Angmar, or whatever he says. So it makes sense that even if the Shadows of Angmar story wasn't in the books, the forces of Angmar, the bad juju coming from that place, must be quite potent if it still affects the Barrow Downs, which are far, far, far away. All right, we're about to YOLO this. We're putting Safe fall to the test. Safe. That's what we call a very safe fall. So I think that's a good working theory as to why the Rangers didn't go this way. I suppose also, you know, if the whole Mordirith story didn't play out, we would end up with basically not much going on in Angmar besides these kind of harassing spirits. So I suppose it makes sense that the Rangers would be a little bit preoccupied with keeping the Shire and Bree safe. Hello. Then more so than they would the Ettenmoors. Because, this just occurred to me, the Ettenmoors are just basically this no man's land between between Angmar and Rivendell. And obviously Rivendell kind of has their act together when it comes to avoiding the bad guys. All right, so let's take a second here. We're going to go up there. We're going to take that hill and see if we can get a better view of what's going on here. Is that Lug? Yes, that is Lugazog there in the distance. Lugazog. So if you ever... Get out of here. If you're ever running around in the moors and you hear them talking about Lug, it's Lugazog, which is this tower over here, which I did a little bit of research. We don't know a lot about the Black Speech, or at least I don't. But it's Lug is something to do with... It means tower. We know that one's actually directly in the book, because those orcs are always talking about Lugbers, the Dark Tower. As Sam and Frodo hear them complaining about their bosses. Burrs, I wasn't quite sure. I think according to one website I looked at, it's something to do with a pass. Or Lugazad, not Lugbers. It's like a... something to do with like a pass, like a mountain pass. Let's go stealthy. And I guess that makes sense, because this is kind of... If it's the Tower of the Pass, and it's guarding Mount Graham, or the Steps of Graham, I guess that name kind of fits. All right, let's see if there's any creeps around here. We're going to reconnoiter before we settle down and talk a little bit about Mount Graham. I will say, it's going to put this out there. I mean, I'm on the official LOTRO stream. I guess it's okay if I complain a little bit. But I'm not... It doesn't really look like much like a heath. Like, if you go and you look up what a moor is, you'll see some beautiful pictures of, like, rural England or even places in Africa that technically qualifies as a moor. This place doesn't look quite the same. But, you know, I didn't make the game. I don't know the technical considerations of what one must do when you're constructing a PvMP zone. All right. Lug, I don't see any creeps, but I'm not going to sneak in there because I'm not a crazy person. So I think what we're going to do is get up here and see if we can get a good look-see. And then we'll... Okay, there we go. That's pretty good. Even from up here, we can get a good look at the bad guys, the creeps. Can we climb up on this rock? Let's climb up on... Yes. No? Come on, buddy. Come on, you little hobbit. You can do it. Okay, if we gave Drowned Snake 5 points for getting the question right, I think I get points if I get on top of this rock. There we go. 5 points from me. No! All right, I give up. You didn't come here to watch me climb rocks. Here we are, near Lugazag, having a look at... I'm gonna go ahead and call this Mount Graham. I don't know if that's right or not. Help me out in the chat if I'm just dead wrong. Because this particular area is called the Steps of Graham, and then up here would be, I suppose, Mount Graham. This here is Graham's Foot, which is the creep starter area. Those of you who've jumped on a cute little wargie or a spider, you've spent some time in Graham's Foot getting scolded by the local orcs population. And so that got me thinking, like, what is the deal with Mount Graham? Because we don't know a lot about it. The most formidable and recurring story about Mount Graham is more to do with the Shire than with the Ettendales. And of course you all know what I'm talking about. We're talking about Golfimble and how the boring, terribly boring game of golf was invented. So of course the great goblin chieftain Golfimble rode down from the Shire, from Mount Graham to the Shire, and promptly got his head knocked off. And of course the stroke by Bull Roarer was so strong that his head went flying off into the air and landed in a hole. And that was the first hole-in-one in recorded history, which I think we all know that. But if we think about the other stories around Mount Graham, there really aren't any. Like, I think, there's some thoughts about... I read certain Tolkien scholars thought, like, maybe in Tolkien's mind originally, Mount Graham was somehow connected to Gundabad, which, of course, we have the big Gundabad expansion coming up here in a few... I was almost said weeks. Months? I don't know. I keep watching Court of the Rings, but I don't think we've gotten a date for Gundabad yet. But it's coming soon. But knowing what we know about Gundabad, that can't possibly be true. So it looks like Mount Graham was this spur that kind of came, represented here, kind of came off to the west of the Misty Mountains. So if we look here, this little spur of hills, Mount Graham would be right about here. and you can look at other maps as well. I'm not going to pull any up off the web, but if you look at any of the maps that Tolkien or Christopher Tolkien drew, or other ones that people have interpreted, this is generally where Mount Graham is placed. And then, of course, Gundabad is going to be up here, which it already is. Gundabad, right here at Elderslade. So there's not really a connection there. So apart from Gulfenbill, we don't really know a lot about Mount Graham, except apparently it was used as a staging ground for Angmar here in the Shadows of Angmar. Yeah, Drowned Snake says you'd think the Hobbits would come up with a more exciting game based on a battle. Yeah, I don't know if it's in the heart of a Hobbit to come up with something more exciting. Like, you didn't hear about Dodgeball. Actually, interestingly enough, I've been slowly reading The Hobbit to one of my kids, and we just did the part, we just finished Flies and Spiders, where, of course, Bilbo saves the dwarves from the Mirkwood spiders. And there's a whole thing, like, that's one thing I love about The Hobbit. As many times as I read it, and as more deep and full of lore and connected to the Silmarillion as the Lord of the Rings is, The Hobbit just has all these wonderful, weird little tangents. And so there's the bit where Bilbo realizes he must save the dwarves, or the spiders are going to eat him. So he picks up an egg and just starts whipping, or I said egg, it was a rock, but the book describes it as an egg-shaped rock. So he just starts whipping rocks at these spiders. And it lists, like, there's this whole side paragraph. This is a life and death situation, people. Our protagonists are about to be devoured by spiders. And the narrator takes up about a whole paragraph to describe all the games of the aiming, I quote, aiming and throwing type that Bilbo was good at, which includes darts, 9-pins, and so on and so forth. So, you know, if we're talking about golf, that seems a pretty fitting hobbity type of game when they're really good at throwing things. So maybe they just added golf to their list of aiming and throwing games. I digress, though. All right. We got a few more things I want to check out for research purposes today before we end our stream. So let's get dangerous. Let's see how far we can get into the Steps of Graham. Definitely not coming out of stealth anytime soon. Then I would like to pop over to the Eyes in Deep, and then if we have time, we'll come down here to Hoar Hollow, which I think will be a nice point of interest considering last month's stream. No trouble yet. I don't know what we're going to find over here. I don't imagine much. I've not, Arwand, I've not read The Nature of Middle-earth yet. That one caught my attention when it was announced, and then I just kind of forgot about it. Have you read it? I'm going to burgle this guy. Oh, wrong button. Let's see. Hold on. This is why I don't do a combat stream. I can't talk and kill orcs at the same time. We gotta get out of here before we get caught. Okay. I had numlock on, so I was trying to be fancy and rob this guy, but all it did was come out of stealth. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Nature of Middle-earth. Any kind of new stuff, as long as it isn't too drafty. I know that's not a word, but as long as it's not like 5 sentences that some editor stapled together to create a publishable work, I'm good with it. Like, I love the Unfinished Tales, so if it's anything like that, I will be a happy camper. Way too many spiders here for my liking. But I guess this fits, right? If we're talking about the foothills of Mount Graham, it should look something like this. And if they are called the Steps of Graham, then it makes sense that they would choose to do this kind of terraced levels. Let's try it again. Professional stealth, friends. He has been burgled. We failed to burgle any items. What are you going to do? Oh! Alright, I'm getting myself into trouble. We got to get out of here. Sweep the leg. Time to roll. Oh no, they took Arador's end. It's bad. I don't even think there are any freeps on here at all. I saw like 2 people running around. Might have to get in the fight after this. This is silly. Let's go pop over to the Eisendeep, because I have not been there in forever. And that's something makes sense within the Ettenmoors, because obviously this is part of that mountain range we were talking about with Mount Graham and the Misty Mountains being right there. So it makes sense that they would have some kind of mine, some kind of iron deposits there. But it also fits within the story as well. If Angmar is looking to stage some kind of invasion into Eriador, they're going to need iron so they can make their orc weapons. So we'll go pop over there. We'll go say hi to the hobbits of Horwell, and then we'll call it a night. So my working theory for all of these castles has not yet changed. I still think there are Norian ruins. And as I said, ultimately they're just there for game purposes. We need things to steal from the creeps or freeps respectively. But if we're going to try to put them into any kind of context, I think it would have to be Arnor or I guess Rudour. Maybe the Hillmen of Rudour built them later on, which would explain their shoddy workmanship. Drowned Snake asks a good question. He says, say, why is it called Eisen Deep? It's not anywhere near the river Eisen. That's a good point. So the word Eisen, this one's a bit confusing. Oh God, wargs. The word Eisen is an old-timey English, I think it's Middle English, Old English word, that means iron. So Eisen, the river Eisen is called that because it is something to do with iron. I don't know. So the reason why it's called Eisen Deep is because, one, it's deep because it's a mine. Like you think about, we see the word deep a lot, like in Helm's Deep, or there's certain spots in Moria that use the word deep as well, which is just an old-timey kind of antique way of referring to delvings. Okay, and then the Eisen part is just iron. So it's a deep place where they can fetch iron. It's an iron mine, essentially. Which I think brings up another interesting wrinkle that people far more educated than myself can speak to, which is, why do we see these old-timey words? Like, they're not Sindarin. Everything is has a Sindarin name. They're not Khaz'dul. They're not Quenya. They're just old-timey English words like Ettenmoors, Etten for giants, Eisen for iron. They're not referred to anywhere else. You don't hear the hobbits going around calling giants and trolls Etten. You don't hear them referring to their iron weapons as Eisen. Which got me thinking more about Tolkien as translator. So if you're unfamiliar, what that is to do with is Tolkien, within the internal logic of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings and the whole mythology, he was translating works that already existed. And if you read the appendices, it gets into this in great detail. So one explanation could be that Tolkien, as translator, thought that this English-speaking audience would want to see these old-timey words like Etten or Eisen. And maybe that's part of it. So here we have the Eisen Deep. Not a lot going on here. This guy's creeping me out, though. So I think it's time to go. Yeah, Iron Mine thing definitely makes sense if we're thinking about this as being the place where the armies of Angmar are like building themselves up for a big invasion. So it makes sense that they would have these kind of the scaffolding and the caves and stuff. We even have a little iron node down here, which you can only use with the quest, but it's just kind of creating that aesthetic. Uh-oh. We got creeps, baby. We got creeps, honeys. Oh, no, it's not. Ah, that's funny. You don't see this a whole lot, where you have the NPCs actually fighting each other. So I suddenly feel like the crocodile hunter. Look at this little beauty. Here we see the orcs in their natural environment, fighting a ice strike. I feel like the only other place I've seen that is in oh, they get me. Was it the Grey Mountains where they're fighting off the dragons? Anyway. So that's the Eyes in Deep Mine. Not a whole lot going on here besides orcs trying to kill a drake. I got completely sidetracked from my train of thought. Let's get the heck out of here. We're in trouble. But then this looks so cool too. What's over here? I can't remember. It's been so long. Okay, we're not going to go further this way. Because if we go this way, that's where the actual control point is. And that means that that's where the big bosses are. And I don't think I'm hobbit enough to single-handedly take the Eyes in Deep Mines. So we're gonna roll out of here. So let's check on that Drake. Hey, he started at the bottom. Now he's here. Look at him. He's holding his own. Okay, anyway. What was I saying? I was talking about the word, these old English words, literally old English words like Eisen and Etten. And I was saying how like maybe it was just a trick that Tolkien used as a master linguist to just create some antiquity within the books. So like even if you are not English, as I kind of mentioned before, the book obviously resonates more with the Brits because they're more familiar with terms like Moors, and they invented their queen and invented the language. But even for us North Americans, it rings a certain bell in our ears when we hear this. But I also wonder what the connection is between these old English words, Eisen, Etten, and so on, and the Rohirrim, or wow, I'm hopelessly lost, because the Rohirric language is again represented in the text as Old English. Maybe there's a connection there. I don't know specifically. You see what I'm doing with my hands? I don't know if specifically Eisen is an Old English word used by the Rohirrim, but there's something there. And that's giving me pause for some more research. But I don't know if I want to sit through hours and hours of the Tolkien professor talking just to find that one nugget. So we're going to do some Google foo later to try to figure this thing out. Anyway, I'm a little worried. I'm going to put on floaty names because I need to be able to spot these creeps a mile away. Once again, we are going to put Safeall to the test for the Shire. There we go. All right, let's pop in on the Hobbits of Horwell before we call it a night, friends. We got a long trek ahead of us because I said Horwell. Horhallow, way down there. So you guys keep an eye out for me. I'm going to blab a little bit more and wax philosophical about the Hobbits of Horwell. So you guys let me know if you spot any creeps. I think that warg we saw earlier is long gone. He's gone to bed. Okay, so let's talk about, so this is another example of what I was talking about before with these older English words. If I'm not mistaken, and again, that's why you're here, chat, so let me know. If I'm not mistaken, Hoar, H-O-A-R, don't get it twisted, just means gray. And LOTRO makes vivid and repeated use of this particular word. You see it, Hoar Mantle is the one you see a lot for, like I'm thinking specifically of the aurochs you see in the Misty Mountains. They've got snow on their backs. So Hoar Mantle means gray mantle. You hear that phrase also used, I think, for Gandalf, if I'm not mistaken. Hold on, let's see. Okay, we are safe here. Okay. So H-O-A-R means gray. And in this case, in this particular zone, it makes reference to the River Harwell, which I think, and I'm just thinking of this now, makes sense when we go back to where we were about half an hour ago. Oh, I'm dead. Dang it. You guys are supposed to be keeping an eye out. Should have brought a bodyguard. Let's get back after it. I wonder where they got me. Because I was over here by the river outpost, but I guess I just caught the business end of an arrow in my neck. Anyways, the HOAR, horror, has to do with gray, the color gray, and also with snow. So I think the name... Do I know them? No, that's not my friend. So the name River Horwell makes sense. If the well, the spring of the river, is up here in the snows of Mount Graham and of the Misty Mountains, that kind of makes sense. Oh, yes. Thank you. Crofbrolad said that I ran into the red circle, which is guarded by the one-shotters. I was busy flapping my gums. I'm going to be more careful. So the use of the word har in the zone is in reference to the river. It's in reference to the snow up there on the peaks of the mountains. And so I suppose when we talk about Har Hollow, which is this hobbit village we're going to end our journey tonight at, I guess it takes its name from the Harwell River. And then, of course, a hallow is a kind of valley or flatter piece of land. It's amazing how many words there are for valley, aren't there? Valley, vale, dale, hallow. And so I suppose that as these hobbits found a nice flat piece of land, the name was taken on from the River Harwell. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it until... Stay away from me. Until LOTRO Wiki corrects me otherwise. And that gets me thinking, like, where did these guys come from? And I think if the wikis are correct, we get a little bit of information on that from the quest, which we'll go peek around and see if we can see some of that for ourselves here in a moment. But this Hobbit village, along with the hobbits of Mar Tolhow. So he just got ganked. Dadgummit. Let's see if I can survive this. I'm new. I don't... hips. There we go. This is what we do. Trying to narrate a lore podcast while I'm getting ganked by wargs. What was I thinking? You guys might get a... Oh! Is he still after us? Okay, he gave up. Whew. My tasty hobbit flanks have been saved for the moment. Let's get to the peace and safety of a good hobbit village before we try to talk some more.
Can I take a moment of your time?
Oh, he came back for blood. Oh. Oh, there's two of them. I'm toast. Okay, where... Oh boy, we're just gonna have a nice little rest here, because this is a long walk. My train of thought is derailed and exploded. As I was saying, before I was so rudely interrupted by these here wargies. The Martolhow and Lindleby, these other wild non-Shire hobbit settlements that we see in the game, are all kind of presupposed based on the hobbit migration. So I talked about that a little bit in my previous episode. But the idea there is that after the awakening of men, the hobbits just kind of hid and hung out in history for about, 9,000 years or whatever. But at a certain point, they migrated westwards. I'm waving my hand because the fly is trying to kill me. And along the way, not unlike the elves, they broke off into pieces, into new settlements. And so I would imagine that if I was a hobbit, and I was coming over the Misty Mountains from somewhere over here, and I found this nice, safe-looking island here in the middle of a river, that would be very appealing to try and stop there. Oh man, they're trying to kill our hobbit friends. This will not stand. We're going to get one of these guys before we log off. So I have to think that would be the story with Har Hallow as well, where we have these waves of hobbits just migrating westwards, and eventually they spot a place that they did not expect to be attacked by wargs and a Uruk in, and they just settle down. But I really want to get a good look at this town, and I want to have some vengeance. As I said, I'm not the as finely geared as I might be, but we're gonna get at least one of these guys before I log off for the night. All right, so that's the Ettenmoors. I feel like what did we learn today? We learned a few things. We learned some more about the River Harwell and the Cold Fells. We found the place of Arador's End, and we talked a little bit about Mount Graham. I, for one, feel a little bit more prepared for the next episode of the Beneath Your Feet podcast. And what else happened? We got ganked. It's kind of funny because I alluded to that a few times on Twitter as I was trying to promote this episode, and sure enough, we got ganked, baby. And now I'm being ganked by a fly. Speaking of Twitter, that's where all the fun's happening. So if you are not partying with us on LOTRO Twitter, I highly recommend it. There's plenty of great LOTRO communities out there, apart from the official forums, just Facebook, Reddit, and so on and so forth. But really, LOTRO Twitter, that's for my money, that's where a lot of fun goes on. We're always goofing around and saying what's what. I got to get one shot. I'm going to get my shot. As Hamilton teaches us, I'm not throwing away my shot. I must have vengeance for my hobbit brethren. And then we'll say goodnight. YOLO. So as I was saying, wait, am I even redline traded? Okay, I am in redline. That's good. So anyways, I hope everyone's having a great time. I hope you guys are doing well and staying safe, dodging the Delta, and I hope that you're enjoying your time in LOTRO. Okay, I think they ran off. Let's see if we can risk learning a little bit of this here.
I hope it's not a bother, but may I speak with you?
No, that's just a fetch quest. No lore there. But I mean, look at it. It's just like they just picked up the Shire assets and just kind of dumped them here, which is with a few mannish brie houses, which is very interesting. Let's see if the mayor has anything to say to us.
You'll take a moment of your time.
Nope. Nothing. No lore to be learned. So I'm going to scour the LOTRO wiki, see if we can find something else. Find a little more information about this place in case the game does get... There he is. Wait, there's a warg about. This is it, people. This is your big finish. Let's see. Put that on him. Do this. Sweep the leg. Oh! This could be a big mistake. Yeah, I'm going down. Oh, he's running away to his buddy. Face me, thou foul wog. I don't have my stun dust. I'm so underprepared. No, I'm toast. All right, everybody. I gave it my all. Thanks for watching. I hope that you learned a little something. And I appreciate all of you checking things out, joining me in the chat, and helping me to learn a little bit. We're going to say goodbye to the Ettenmoors right now and say goodbye to LOTRO Stream. Once again, my name is Shoreless. You can find me on Twitter at Shoreless Skies, really anywhere at Shoreless Skies. I'm on the official forums at Shoreless. And you can check out the Beneath Your Feet podcast at anchor.fm/LOTROBYF, or just follow me on Twitter. And I'm definitely going to post it when the next episode comes out, probably in about a week. So thanks again for watching. Hope you guys have a great night. Bye.